Each student of Cragstone Mage Academy was forced to sit with their class. Norbert always tried to hide at the edge of the table, but he was big for his age, and rarely did he go unnoticed. Classes were finished for the week, and the dining hall was abuzz as students planned their weekends. Even though professors lived on Cragstone Island with the students, there were still a few places where a party could be thrown. Norbert half listened at those at his table making plans. He went to a party his first week. It didn't go very well. He ended up spilling 2 punch bowls and tripped over a piñata. He even heard the professors snicker at him as he walked by in the halls. Look it, it's Piñata Boy. I wonder if any candy would come out. Which is, to be fair, Norbert always had some sort of treats in his pocket. Mostly candy. Sometimes pastries. But Norbert didn't need the parties. In the week since he had arrived, he made some new friends. Nicer friends. Those were the ones that he would spend his evening and weekend with. So to prepare for a party of his own, he reached for 2 more pieces of chicken. He put one on his plate and tucked the other one into his robe's pocket. No one had caught on yet, and so far he managed to smuggle 6 pieces of chicken. 2 more ought to do it. Cragstone's food hall was served family style, and there was nothing wrong with grabbing seconds. But Norbert didn't need any more fat jokes in his life, or people asking why a vegetarian had pockets full of meat. He reached for the 2 lying on his plate, and just as he slipped them into his opposite pocket, someone yelled, "Can't get enough to eat at dinner, so you're saving some for later?" Arthur said. Arthur Bogg was the class's top boy. Rich, handsome, good at magic. He was on all of the sports teams, had all the best parties, had the most friends, and yet it always seemed to be his favorite hobby was to torment Norbert. Arthur pressed. "Did you say something, or are your chipmunk cheeks stuffed with chicken too?" The table laughed, and Norbert tried to tuck into his robe's hood like a turtle. Norbert didn't like that he had to sit with his class. "Well," Arthur was now in front of his seat, standing over Norbert. "It's not for me, so leave me alone," Norbert said. "Well, now I'm curious," Arthur said louder. The decibels dropped around the dining hall as more and more tables started to listen on the first year's squabble. There's nothing more exciting than 2 mages fighting, even though it's just a bunch of first years. "Who's the cold chicken wings for, Norbert? Or should I say piñata pig?" More laughter. "They're for my friends," Norbert croaked. "What's that? I couldn't quite catch that. Did you say friends?" Arthur leaned in. Norbert affirmed. Art looked around and yelled a little louder so all the tables could hear. "It's okay, everyone. He isn't going to eat them. They're just for his friends." And then Arthur cocked his head and thought loudly. "But all the students and teachers eat their meals in this dining hall. Being that we are the only school on this piece of rock and the only city for several miles, that must mean your friends aren't in here, huh?" A smile was rising on Arthur's face. Norbert tucked his head down and hunched over. They must have thought his friends were imaginary. He knew it. Everyone knew it. Norbert didn't have any real friends. "Did you find some imaginary pigs you can hang around with?" Snickering grew at the table and started to spread to the other tables. "Why won't they just leave me alone?" Norbert said under his breath. "I'm already the worst in my class. Why do they have to make this worse?" "Not pigs, cats," Norbert whimpered. "What?" Arthur stopped laughing. He held up his hand, and the others did too. "Did you say cats? You hang out with cats?" Norbert nodded slowly. "And the strays in the woods. Those would be your types of friends, Norbert. And I bet they aren't even your friends. They just see you as a food cart." The table erupted into more laughter. "But I want to help. Those cats are so scrawny." But no one heard Norbert now. After a bit, Arthur silenced the crowd again. "Now, people, what I think Norbert is doing is nice. We should take care of those who can't take care of themselves." The first year seemed confused. Were they actually agreeing with Norbert for once? Arthur moved down the table and picked up some plates of cake. It wasn't like Arthur to do something nice. "You can't have a proper meal without dessert, can you, Norbert?" He held out the plates of cake. Art's smile seemed different, like he meant it. Norbert returned the smile and reached for the 2 plates. But just as he did, the twisted smile came back to Arthur's face, and he dumped the cakes onto Norbert's head. The first slice slid down the front of Norbert's face, and the second, with a plop, slipped down the back of his robe. Even with frosting-filled ears, Norbert could hear the cafeteria's laughter roaring. Norbert tried to wipe the frosting and tears from his eyes, but all he managed to do was smear it around. Then a voice cracked like lightning. "What is going on here?" There was silence. When Norbert finished getting the frosting out of his eyes, he was the only one for several tables. All the others had cleared out. And staring at him with undivided attention was the meanest teacher in all of Cragstone, Professor Vine. Professor Vine had a gaze that would make any zombie return back to the grave. She taught illusions, which was ironic because she was as black and white as any teacher. Her robe was always pressed, which matched her straight, long hair. Not even one hair ever seemed to be out of place. Everyone was afraid of her, even the teachers. On weekends, you'd never catch her in casual clothes. She was always in the same black professor's robe. Well, Mr. Soot, care to explain what happened here? I slipped, Norbert stammered. Slipped? While sitting down, Norbert hung his head. Can she just leave him alone, too? I take it Mr. Bog was the one who have slipped, she said. Norbert nodded. Go clean yourself up, Mr. Soot. And if you are to be a mage, behave like one. Appearance is everything, and you have cake and frosting all over you. She leaned in and gave a sniff. You also smell of sweat and fried chicken. Take a shower and clean your robes. I hope you not go to your classes smelling like that. She twirled her robe and stormed past the teacher's table and out the faculty door. Norbert looked around the dining hall. Only a couple of upperclassmen and professors remained. They too seemed to be laughing softly and pointing in Norbert's direction. Norbert did not take Professor Vine's recommendation. Instead of heading off to his dorm, he headed towards the woods. It was his favorite spot. Even on bad days, it made him feel better. It had several rocks that were perfect for sitting. It overlooked the gulf, and there was always a cat or two milling around. On clear nights, you could even see the lamps of the kingdoms across the water. As Norbert walked the worn trail, he couldn't help but grumble to himself. Why does Arthur and the other students have to be so mean? And why couldn't Vine just air dry me and get this cake out of my hair? She claims to know 1,000 spells. Surely she had one for cake removal. Norbert groveled some more as he continued to walk down the trail. It was a boring trail. Trees and brush on every side. Occasionally, you'd catch a glimpse of a woodland pig. Nothing exciting. Cragstone Mage Academy sat on an island in the middle of the Argonic Gulf, an ancient fortress that now had been built upon and added to every age. Now the old keep was a mage school. Besides the schools, the stray cats, and the forest pigs, nothing exotic was ever on the island. All the exotic creatures had been killed or hunted centuries ago, which suited Norbert just fine and made exploring the island's trails less terrifying. The only hard part was being so out of shape. Norbert pulled out a lemon pastry that he was saving, thinking it might help him fuel up to finish the trail, but he stopped. No, almost there. I've eaten enough, and maybe Arthur was right. The cats might enjoy a dessert. He patted his belly. This pinata pig could use a little less dessert. As he approached the opening, there was a commotion. The sound of hissing and snarling. The cats were probably fighting over what scraps of food they could find. There wasn't much to eat in the woods for them. Norbert pulled out a chicken wing and held it in his hand. It's okay, friends. You can stop fighting. I've got enough chicken for all of you. 3 cats burst from the shrubbery and darted under Norbert's foot. Guys? He asked. 2 more came running behind the trees and hurried past, not even giving a second look at Norbert and his chicken wings. He moved closer to what they were running away from. It must be a big cat. He came into the Overlook's clearing and dropped a chicken wing. Staring back at him was a wolf. Its yellow eyes stared right back into Norbert's soul. Clutched in its jaws was a cat. The cat wasn't moving, and its fur was matted in blood. Norbert looked at the beast. A wolf shouldn't be here. Maybe it escaped from a professor's pen, or swam to the island. Wherever it came from, there must have not been much food. Even for a wolf, it looked scrawny, and its rib cage was showing. Even if it was hungry, Norbert couldn't let it eat its friend. Norbert pulled out another chicken wing. Maybe the wolf could be reasoned with. Hey, Mr. Wolf, you don't want to eat a cat when you could have a chicken wing fried to a golden brown, huh? The wolf's eyes narrowed and sank its teeth deeper into the cat's neck. The cat gave a weak kick. If the cat was alive, Norbert was going to try to save it. Thinking of nothing else, Norbert chucked the chicken at the wolf. It hit the beast on the snout and the cat fell to the dirt ground. The wolf moved over its prey and snarled at Norbert. The wolf took another step towards Norbert. Norbert threw another chicken wing and another. Soon, fried chicken began to dot the Overlook. The wolf was undeterred and lurched at Norbert. Despite going to a mage school, Norbert sucked at magic. He tried to think of the fireball that he had learned last week. He recited the spell as many times as he could speak. Still nothing came out. When the wolf was on him, a light erupted from his hands, but it was no fireball, just a torchlight. Helpful for reading at night or going to the basement, nothing more. But the sudden flare terrified the wolf, and it ran into the woods yelping. Norbert crawled over to the injured cat. It was breathing soft, but still breathing. If there was a chance, Norbert was going to do everything he could to save this cat. Norbert ran like he never ran before. He got to the school's entrance, out of breath and drenched in sweat. The cat was still breathing, but its breaths growing shallower. Help! Norbert whined into the entrance. No one answered. He ran first to the infirmary. A sign hung. Not here. Try again later. He ran to the professor's halls of offices, all of their doors shut and dark. They were probably partying somewhere else or sleeping or whatever professors do. Then he remembered, you don't have to be a good mage. You just have to know the right spell book, and you can cast any spell. So he ran to the library. Officially the weekend, the library was deserted. A dust-covered placard was on the librarian's desk. It said, use the honor system. The cat was growing cold. Norbert grabbed the thickest jacket he could find on the lost and found bucket, swaddled the cat, and headed towards the spell books. Norbert ran down the aisles looking for something promising. Some of the books had worn spines, others not even a crease. There was no order to these books. Some sections were listed by author, others by subject, others were just written in ancient script. Some seemed to be organized by color. Panic was setting in. The colors of the spines swirled in his head. He didn't know how much time he had, but he knew he was running out. The room began to swirl and Norbert turned in place. Then one caught his eye. It was an off-colored green book with black lettering. The spine had no words, just photos. A skull, a mended heart, and a smiling sun. Norbert flipped to the intro page. Still no lettering, just an image that depicted a smiling man, then a fallen one, then a dead one, and then him back alive and walking around. He's had to do it. This was a healing book. Norbert put the book in one hand and the swaddled cat in another, and hustled toward a spell room. A tiny room with dark stone covered the walls often prevented spells from spreading out into the entire library. He flipped through the pages. They were all written in all sorts of languages and graphs and illustrations. None of it made any sense. The cat's breath was barely moving the jacket now. Why me? I'm no good at this stuff. Come on, there has to be something I can use. The next page opened. It was a picture of a cartoon dog injured by a cart. Then in the next photo, the dog was standing up and wagging its tail. This must be a spell to heal animals. He looked at the chart. A glyph had to be drawn. He grabbed some blood chalk from the wall and drew the glyph. He placed the cat at the center, its breath growing even more slower. Tears dripped from Norbert's face. Come on, little guy, you got this. He started to recant the archaic language. I can't do this. It's just too hard. The cat closed its eyes and let out a tiny last breath. Norbert put it all behind him and tried to read the spell book the best he could. He knew the words he was saying were being mispronounced, but he finished the first page and then through the second, and the sound cracked like lightning broke through the room. A golden light flashed above the cat and then went out. No! It was so close. I'm gonna try again. Norbert read it again, believing more in himself this time. He could save this cat. He could do it. When he finished, a large crack of lightning happened. A golden flame hovered in the room. Then it fell gently onto the cat. Then the light turned to a golden flame and started engulfing the cat. It smelled like burnt chicken. Norbert grabbed the jacket and tried to snuff out the flames, but the flames ate through the jacket and caught his robes on fire. Norbert tried to roll, putting himself out, and when he succeeded, he managed to catch the rest of the spell room on fire. The spell room was now burning, and the flames leapt up onto the room's posters, burning the "No Serious Spells Without Professor's Permission" poster up in flames. Norbert ran out of the room and closed the glass door behind him. The golden flames roared inside. Eventually, without oxygen, the flames died out. Norbert was wretched with guilt. Sure, the wolf hurt the cat, but Norbert was the one who killed it. How was he supposed to be a mage if he couldn't save one cat, let alone the fact he probably burned the cat alive? Norbert would not deny or hide from what he did. He would give the cat a burial and let the teachers know that he failed to save it. Norbert reached for the door handle. Ash and smoke bellowed from the room. When it cleared, the cat's body was still there, but the cat looked different. It was still furry and had a shape of a cat, but its coloring was all wrong. It changed from a white cat to a teal cat. Its eyes were something more like a cartoon than in real life. Then its nose twitched and took a shallow breath. Norbert did it. Well, kinda. This looks different. But he did it. He felt into his pocket. One chicken wing left. He waved it in front of the cat's nose. Maybe that will wake him up.